everybody. Welcome to the Little Lighthouse. I'm Carly. I'll be your host tonight. And I'm really, really excited to welcome our special guest tonight, Adrianne Chandra Huff, who's the co-founder of Bodhi Surf Yoga. So welcome, my friend. How's it going?
Oh, I am good. How are you? Looking beautiful.
Doing very good. Doing very good. So you're down in Uvita, Costa Rica right now, right?
Yes, and I'm sorry it's so dark. The sun goes down very early here, so it's been long dark. It's been dark for a couple hours. I got my Christmas lights in the background here, and the light from my computer.
It looks beautiful. It's very ambient, beautiful. So I just wanted to start by telling our story a little bit because it's pretty funny and incredible. I was thinking if I told the first part, maybe you could tell the second part about how we met.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
So Adrianne and I started working together. I was working in San Francisco at the San Francisco Water Department in the water conservation section. I'd been writing this blog about water conservation. And so I got involved with the water department and I was helping to run their low flow toilet program. So it was like getting the citizens of San Francisco their free low flow toilets. And Adrianne was working in San Diego at the toilet company. And so pretty much every week we would like be on the phone with each other trying to coordinate what, people getting toilets. And it was pretty comical because it was just weird things came up all the time. So I think it was maybe like half of the people that we worked with were native Chinese speakers. And we only had like one translator on our staff. And so we'd get these crazy calls that were just like I remember one lady was like, I have poo-poos in my toilet. We were like, yeah. And they would like call around. So it would be like, first they'd call us, then they'd call Adrianne. And so basically Adrianne and I had worked together for like a year or something.
Mm-hmm. We never met in person. We only talked on the phone.
Yeah, for like a year.
But we connected even over the phone because I was living in San Diego, which you were from there, and we talked about surfing a lot. And actually I don't know if I ever told you this part. It was a bit of a running joke. Everyone in my office was like, "You have a girl crush on Carly."
That's so awesome.
I know.
That's no, the feeling was mutual. I feel like we were
kindred.
I was like in this department of weird bureaucrats, like city bureaucrats. And so like I had no idea what you looked like, but I was like, this girl is awesome. She's fun to work with and she's rad. So then
and on my end, I'd seen one photo of you because this was like before Facebook and stuff, right? Yeah. I'd seen one photo of you on there was like an SFPUC, like you guys had gotten together for some kind of group shot and we got like, I don't know, it might've been a Christmas card or something. I just remember we got it at our office. And so I was like, oh, that's Carly.
Yeah, totally. So luckily you had seen me because then we stopped working together. And that's what's really funny is we definitely were not Facebook friends or something. We must have like exchanged emails or something, but like basically we didn't talk for a year or more.
Yeah, I left, I don't know, I think you left before I did, but I left that job in 2011 and I don't think we reconnected until 2012 or 13 maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Which is when I took a trip to Costa Rica randomly.
Very randomly.
Yeah.
So we were giving you and a friend some surf lessons, and I remember like we met at the designated spot and we were introducing ourselves. And as soon as I saw you, I actually knew it was you, but I was like, don't be weird. So I was like, I just remember being like, Carly, have you ever lived in San Francisco, Carly? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, did you work for the SFPUC perchance? And you were like, I did. What? And I was like, I don't know, this is so weird, haha. But like we talked on the phone maybe once a week for about a year. Do you remember me? And you did, I think vaguely at least, right?
Oh, I definitely did.
Was
it? It was so awesome. And then we took a surf lesson, but then it was like awesome. We spent like 2 days surfing with you, I think.
And we had some dinners somewhere. I think, yeah, it was just, we just had some times down here. It felt funny because I don't know, it's something about being here, at least for me, even now, many years later, it does kind of feel a little bit like the end of the earth. like you have to travel quite a ways to get here, and like we're like just at the edge of the ocean and in the kind of the jungle. It's getting a bit more developed, but yeah. So it was cool.
Yeah.
It's to date like one of the weirdest, like fortuitous meeting stories I think I've ever participated in.
Yeah, I know, because it's like really out of every single place, even in Costa Rica, that I could have gone to, it's like, but that is the best place to learn to surf, without a doubt. Like that has like
100%.
stayed in my like psyche until this year of
Mhm.
actually learning to
Mhm.
surf. Of like that
Mhm.
is the place.
It's a good place. The best
So
place.
it is the best place. So you were already interested in sustainability when I met you, as evidenced, I assume, by you participating in a low flow toilet
Program.
program.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, how did you get passionate about sustainability, and how did the idea of Bodhi start?
So in my life, I grew up in a household. So I'm actually from Canada. I'm from British Columbia, Canada. I was born in Vancouver, and my mom's always been really ahead of her times in terms of like she's been talking to me about global warming, for example, since I was a child. So the early '90s, which I don't think it was that big of a. It wasn't as hot of a topic as it certainly became in the 2000s and now. Even more obviously as the urgency grows. But I grew up, really and truly like, we didn't use plastic really growing up. My mom would put things in jars, and we'd reuse like tin foil and stuff. So it was always like if we did a trip in the car anywhere, we were doing multiple things. It wasn't like, it was never just like we're going to do one thing and come back and here and back. So I grew up with this ethos of conservation, definitely. And my mom attributes it a lot to her own mother, who grew up in the Depression years, and in like very rural Canada. So definitely in my family on that side, I had that. And then I think that it became more global when I started traveling as a child and into my teens. This idea that I think it sort of became clear to me that every issue that we have as humans disproportionately affects people who are already in poverty, or in countries. That was one thing that really like stuck with me when I first took my first trip to Mexico in 1999. I just remember being like, wow, I have so much. Like I grew up thinking I was poor, and then I traveled elsewhere in the world, and saw friends of mine sleeping 7 or 8 to like a one room sort of situation with their whole families, and being like, I have my own bedroom. Like I don't know how I ever thought I wanted for anything. So that was a really great perspective shift. And then Bodhi, I mean, happened a lot. Like I've been having this kind of really interesting life, I would say. It's probably a story for another time, but I've done a lot of traveling, a lot of road trips, a lot of moving around. I've lived now most of almost my entire adult life out of my home country, having lived in Mexico and the States, and now Costa Rica for almost a decade. But yeah, I think I always probably destined to live kind of outside the box life. And I became part of, like, I helped start Bodhi. It was actually my ex and my current business partner. We're friends from college. I got married when I was 20 years old, so that was quite young. And yeah, so I did. I helped found this company when I was about 22 years old. The idea came around, and we got it going when I was 23. I'm now 33, so it's been a decade, and it's just flown by. And the company was founded by 4 individuals, 3 remain, and we all came into it with our own values. But I would say that conservation was a shared, like, having an impact, having it be positive. Conservation, environmentalism, sustainability were definitely things that were worked into the very fabric of the company. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like everything, it's evolved, of course, but yeah, I would say that we intended this company to have some kind of something to do with nature, surfing. I mean, we can talk more about surfing specifically, and how and yoga, and how these link so very well with sustainability, environmentalism. But yeah. That's a sort of long and short answer, I guess.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. And yeah, I would love to come back to the surfing and yoga part too. What so you guys obviously give incredible surf lessons and you do yoga, but it seems like over time, and through watching the Bodhi Wave, the documentary that was made about you guys, um, that you have really stepped into kind of a bigger role when people come and visit you. There's more than they can expect than just surfing or yoga. Not that those things, they're obviously elemental, perfect things. But so can you describe some of the other aspects of Bodhi that you have developed over time and how they aim to shift people while they're there?
So it's my perspective. I obviously have my own perspective, and everyone has their own. But for me, like, I didn't necessarily, like, my business partner Travis might say that he came into this business with like a really clear idea of what he wanted from it, what he wanted to do. At 22, I didn't. For me, I would say it's sort of developed into it's evolved as we've gone along, And so at the beginning and back when you came here, like we were just meeting people like we didn't even have a physical location at the time. We met at, a different office of a different a boat tour operator that was our friends. And we would take people to the beach, or we'd go, meet them at their rentals or hotels to do yoga. And then we acquired the land, we built the structures and the infrastructure. We started spending more time. I took over the kitchen role. I always knew that I wanted to do something specific with the kitchen, specifically like to have it be healthy, nourishing, homemade, inspire people to like go home and cook versus eating out or eating, crap food. I would say that everything has this idea, of like it has like this kind of like idea if we can help inspire something, some kind of positive change. I think that like above all, that is what Bodhi Surf Yoga is. It's just like us being really like scrappy and looking for ways to inspire people, in the ways that maybe travel or these kinds of experiences have inspired us. Like, I'm not saying that we're like the be all end all, like we're all inspired as we go out into the world and have experiences, but I don't think that it's necessarily the case that every tourism operator or every inspirational experience provider understands that that is something that they have the capacity to do. So to do it like a little bit more intentionally and deliberately, to actually find what is the secret, what is the the like way by which this is happening, and then try to make the conditions such that that happens more frequently. We can't guarantee that we're going to like change anyone's life, but after talking to enough people, and for me, it was always retroactive, like looking back, it was like, yeah, we talked to people and be like, oh, wow. Like later on, they might tell us, yeah, when I was there, I decided to quit my job, or I decided to get out of a relationship that wasn't, serving me any longer. I decided to take that stuff and go back to grad school or whatever, like, it's not like people are coming here and being like, I'm quitting my jobs and I'm moving to Costa Rica to start a surf camp. Although that definitely is sometimes something that people want. But I think that, what Bodhi has been able to do is sort of, hone in on this idea that we have this potential for this to be a catalytic like experience for people. We're no different than any other tourism provider. I just think that we've understood that and tried to do that more intentionally, so it's kind of like, we can't guarantee that you're gonna have life changes, but conditions are perfect if you are in the market for some life changes. And they might be small, it might just be like, I want to go home and get more involved in my community, because I can see that that's really rewarding for you guys. I see now that, I have a really good example of that. And I want to go home and I want to do that myself, so it's big, it's small, but I think any kind of positive change, it doesn't matter how small it is, it's good. So yeah, like I would say that the surfing and the yoga are tools by which people can either connect more deeply with nature or with themselves, maybe with their fears or their desires or whatever, right? And then I think that, coming to a rural, Costa Rican community, like there's opportunity to connect with maybe the polar opposite of what you live with. It's the same. You might live in a place where you have access to everything. You can go down to Target 24 hours a day, and pick up whatever you need. And to come here and things, even if it's just for a week or two, things are a little bit more tricky, and just to like help you go home and really like be like, yeah, I'm really lucky to live where I do, or whatever. I think that we just have like a lot of open conversations and with our guests while they're here, and help facilitate connection, and I don't know, kind of be a link maybe between something. I think that's the cool part of this job. It's like we can bridge two concepts together, maybe, in weird and interesting ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys do you do some sort of like when people come and visit you now, do you do like goal setting or something at the beginning of their time there that's like what they want to do? Or is that like a thing you do? I remember seeing it in the documentary, like, or do you do it at the end where people are like, okay, like this
Yeah.
is what I'm going to take home, or this is what I'm going to change?
Yeah, so it's funny, and this is why I say like the thing molds, it changes all the time. Like we've toyed with the idea of making it a little bit more deliberate and intentional. It's so interesting though. So basically, like we didn't start off with any of this, right? It was just like we're doing surf, we're doing yoga, we're having a great time, we do some community work, and then like it's funny because when the guest experience is like a fraction of what we do at Bodhi, like it's actually the easiest part of what we do, because we're and we'll talk more about this perhaps, but like we're doing a lot in these different networks of B Corp and 1% for the Planet and our own community and things in Costa Rica and the travel industry in general, right? There's all these different verticals that in networks that we're involved in locally, globally, whatever, like we want to use this business to have an impact, and having an impact with our guests is one way we do it, but there are others. So it's funny because like the actual guest experience, it seems to be almost like, yeah, this is just like this is what keeps our week structured, but otherwise we'd probably like zoom off into oblivion doing all these like other fun, cool things that we do, but yeah, so like we even like we just kind of like latch on to things that work really well and things that feel right, so we kind of follow our instincts with it. We're always very cautious, I would say. So like we are first and foremost a surf and yoga camp. So yeah, at the beginning we might get people's yoga goals and their surf goals, and generally like check in with them and see where they're at. But there's no real, it's not like a traditional retreat whereby like you're coming down here to change your life. It's just like people are down here. And I think that might also make us more accessible to people that might not even know that that's the kind of experience they want to have. At the end of the week, we always just have reflection time, like, hey, what did you learn? What did you pick up? What are you grateful for? Was there anything in this week that you thought, that you felt, that you noticed about yourself, about your like changes for you? We do ask guests to make a pledge. Oftentimes it's environmental in nature, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like, I pledge to be more positive. I pledge to, sometimes it's very specific to like, I think it started off also like an environmental pledge, but that's the thing. So like our tagline used to be awaken your inner surfer. And then, or awaken your inner spirit. And now it's just awaken purpose, because what we've noticed is that people come down here and they connect to something. And I don't really even know, like, it's kind of woo-woo, but I don't really necessarily know like what exactly it is, to be honest. I think it's the whole experience. So I think it's the combination of everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just more like, I would say like free flowing. Every week is a little bit different. It's kind of dependent on where people are at too. Like we have, we sometimes, have dance parties every night. Right now, this week, it's actually really ridiculous. We have both guests who are here right now are here, have been here for 2 weeks. We've become really close, and we have Arrested Development nights. We're rewatching Arrested Development, and we're also into it. So we have like a lot of laughs together, and so it's more light, but some weeks are really a lot more, it's just kind of, we're flexible to kind of meeting guests where they're at as well. And it's really cool synergetically like what happens in any given week, based on who comes.
Awesome. Yeah,
Mhm.
you got, like I was telling you, it's like during COVID and the pandemic, especially being in the US and just how terrible it is. It's been like every time I see emails from you about Bodhi, it's just like there's a place where people are spending time together and being happy and surfing. It sounds so nice. Like, yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds
Well, and that's, I think I alluded to it earlier. Like I do think probably if there is one like secret ingredient that Bodhi has, or Bodhi has realized, it's the connection thing, you know? It's the connection, stupid. Like when we are sad, upset, when we're anxious, when we're depressed, you know, normal depression, that's to say that we all experience from time to time. Like I think that that is, and this is my personal belief, and it's, you know, take it or leave it, right? But I do think that there are things in our lives that we just move away from, or we lose track of, or we like, and that might be purpose, like working in something that's meaningful to me, or getting outdoors, you know, like there's, you know, I know I've lived in cities before where I don't get enough time in the ocean or in the mountains or whatever, right? And that does have effect on my mental health. And so now with COVID and people are like, you know, they're, you know, away from each other, they're away from potentially their work, everything's, you know, upside down a little bit. And so I think the connection aspect is what's really having people suffer a lot, you know? And so this year, definitely, like we've been really lucky. We've had really low numbers this year, which is great, you know, in terms of like managing all the COVID protocols and stuff. But um, I would say that it's been very interesting to see, like, yeah, it's always been like at the end of the week on the reflection period and how the guests react. Like there's always been tears and hugs. Now there's no hugs, but there's been so much, like I've just been like, oh gosh, you know, because sometimes you think, are we crazy, you know, for trying to keep doing this in this time? But it's been so valuable to the people, you know. It's been I can see how much like, and it's not like Bodhi's the only answer, but just like I want to encourage in any way possible for people to find those lost connections again. And in any way, you know, I think that can be done at home as well. For some people it's coming here, you know, for everyone it's going to be a different sort of thing, um but yeah, it's more important than ever, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and you guys, I really respected, like, I'm sure it was super scary at the beginning of the pandemic, just being like, how are we gonna function? And I really respected how you like focused on keeping your staff, you know? And
Yeah.
so, because you hire people also from the local community. So can you talk about a little bit about that community work that you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, it gives me chills actually, because it's like, I don't know, I have this like weird muscle memory or something, but I remember the feeling of, and it had been a challenging couple of years. Like I split up with my husband, and that was, he was a business partner as well, and he left here, and that was in 2019, and that was a really rough year for me, and I think for all of us, to be honest, because we were a family, you know, and we are still a family, but people come, people go. And so I was kind of like looking at 2020 as this year that it was going to be my life raft of a year, you know. I felt like I really needed this. You don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. Yeah, so I am, you know, rolling into 2020, but in retrospect it was very much crazy. It was crazy feeling down here. Like we'd never been so busy. I'd never seen so many tourists here. Going to the store was like you wait in line, and it was just like all of a sudden it was like everything was ramping up, and it felt like in retrospect the world was just moving so fast, and we were all moving so fast, and to talk about flying here and flying there, and I don't know, it just felt very busy and wild. And like we had, I think by the time we shut down last year, for because of COVID, we had gone I think 30 weeks straight. So our work is such that we don't have a day off. Actually, we have like the guests leave for, you know, Friday afternoon, Saturday we're getting everything ready, and then they arrive again Saturday night, so there's no days off, you know. And so yeah, you know, like we had more staff than we'd ever had, and like we had created what I called the dream team. It was just the best group of people, the synergy between everyone, that, and maybe coming off of a really tricky interpersonal relations year in 2019, to have this like cohesive team, and there was a lot of moving parts, and then just boom, you know, like we could hear this thing coming, and then I don't know, I just felt like the walls started like crumbling down around us very quickly, and we had like 3 days notice that the borders were shutting down, and it was just like, what the heck, you know? Like, I mean, everyone knows where they were when this happened, right? We'll never forget, I'm sure. But yeah, for me it was like talking about our B Corp values, like to be a company, to use your business as a force for good, like this was the first moment that I was like, this is imperative that we live our values now. This is a test, and if we can't, like, this is a test. This is a real life test. It's not just like, oh, yes, we do things well. And yes, blah, blah, blah. Here's how we scored on this audit. It was like, no, the B Corp values and ethos are really, really clear. They're really strong. And for me, it was just a very clear roadmap. And it was like, yeah, this isn't necessarily going to be easy. Obviously, I don't think it will be for anyone, but it's very clear what we have to do. And I remember like we were, trying to go really quickly, and we were trying to make decisions that were the best for everyone. And we actually did at the very, like, when it was all happening, we were like, okay, we're letting one person go, but we found another job for her and we'll hire her back and blah, blah, blah. And then that thing fell through and we were just like, no. And I just remember having this moment where I was like, I don't care about anything else, anything at all. Like right now in my life, I think we just need to keep our team together. And I will get another job. I will get another job and we can do this. I don't care. We'll figure out how to do it, but I think we need to keep the team together. And so we made that decision as a team that we were going down together. We were going to sink or float together. And so for all intents and purposes, we had 2 guests that ended up staying for like one for 4 months, one for 6. We sheltered in place together, and we kept every single staff member, and everyone who left of their own accord, because they were like, this is, people didn't want to, we were not making any money. Like we had the money we had, and it was just every month going away, and we scrambled and we did all sorts of things to keep afloat that were donation based. And it was just like, help keep our team together while you can't visit us and we can't operate normally. Yoga classes, like we worked actually like that April and May of last year. I don't think I have ever worked harder, to be honest. And we had no guests. It was just this survival instinct of keeping the family together and making sure everyone was taken care of. And I will probably always look back on that as something that I'm most proud of. It was like, it was a lot of work and a lot of stress, but it was really rewarding as well. I'm not planning on having my own children, but I had this like very maternal instinct in that moment of just like making sure everyone was taken care of, and yeah, so we managed to keep everyone together. And now the team is a lot more slender, but everyone who's left, again, they've left because they're using this moment to reinvent themselves as well. And I think that's wonderful, or just further their own things. And so everyone who's left is doing something really cool, and I'm really proud of all of them. Some came back, and the team is smaller now, which makes us a little bit more agile, because we're nowhere near the numbers that we had last year or the year before, and that's okay. Like I'm happy with whatever we're getting right now. It's a blessing, not every company will make it. Not every company has made it, in this industry, or in any industry really. So yeah, I definitely just don't take anything for granted anymore in terms of any of it.
Yeah. So when you talk about B Corp, a B Corp company, which is what you guys are, can you describe that for folks who might not know what that means, and just talk about kind of how that could serve as an example for other businesses?
Yeah, so B Corp, it was a movement founded by 3 friends, and I want to say like 2007 or 6 maybe. 2 of them had worked, or I think founded the company And One, a shoe company. You may remember they had like the And One basketball. I can't remember. They were these like, they would go around the country of the US essentially and have these pickup games and kind of like give young up and coming basketball players who would never have otherwise gotten any kind of fame or whatever, like an opportunity to be on these like mixtapes, and they're kind of cool and underground, right? Anyways, they had problems with the apparel industry being so very like just dirty, it's really it doesn't take care of its workers or the environment or the communities that it resides in for the most part, at that time. And so they kind of wanted to come up with this way. And it was really like, I mean, I've met all these guys and they're just visionary, really. Just like you would think about this and be like, what the heck? But they managed to get some off the right, like out the gate. They got like Patagonia to sign on and a couple of other companies that you might have heard of, but it was only like 10 or 20 companies. And then every year it's just grown. And at this rate, there's got to be like 4,000 or 5,000 companies globally. So it's a certification process that essentially any company can willingly undergo. It's voluntary. You opt to do it. I've heard different reasons why companies do it. One is that it's the best free tool that any company can take. That's to say like you have to pay for the certification, but you can do their, it's called the B Corp impact assessment. And it's just a like very nicely guided way that you input all this data about your company, and it gives you a score in 6 categories. So that's community, workers, environment. I'm not going to remember them all right now. Transparency, customers, and something else. So it's kind of just trying to take every place that you might have some kind of impact, versus, sometimes like 1% for the planet. We're also a part of that. We're a member of 1% for the planet, but that's just mostly environmental in scope, whereas this one's more holistic on the whole business. But yeah, so you go through it. And so whether you certify or not, it gives you a great roadmap to know where you can improve and what you're doing well in. And then other companies do it, I think, because it's a great marketing tool. I think B Corp is getting more and more known. Companies like Athleta have joined on recently. The Body Shop was actually acquired by Natura, which is a Brazilian B Corp. So there's a lot of like big acquisitions or certifications happening of larger companies, which is great for the like little guys like us, because that gives us more visibility as well. But I would say for the most part, people are generally unaware of what B Corp is. It's really interesting movement. I've never been a part of one that's so inspirational to me personally. I didn't want to go into business. I was always thinking I'd go into the nonprofit world or even like governmental work. I thought that was the best way to have an impact, and I have completely changed my tune. It's just so cool to see how agile you are as a for-profit company, especially a small one. Like overnight, we can make a decision and just start enacting it, and instead of having to ask everyone who's involved. And one of the things Bodhi does, Travis, my business partner, is the vice president and co-founder of the Somos Foundation. It's a community foundation. I, this year, starting during the pandemic, started doing like marketing and communications for them. And it's lovely working for a community foundation and organization, but it's also so interesting to see there's so many players involved. Very, very difficult to make a decision. Takes a lot of time. What for Bodhi would take overnight or one meeting might take us a week, 2 weeks, a month. That decision might never get made. And it's just because that's how working with a lot of people is, So I do think that, the for-profit world, companies, the private sector has so much potential to do good, but right now there's very little oversight, in terms of like any company can say, we're sustainable, we're responsible, we take care of our workers or whatever. And like, there's no oversight of that. They can say, you can go online right now and, Coca-Cola has its like corporate social responsibility plan. I don't know. I can't comment. I know that in the like 80s and 90s, Coca-Cola is a pretty shady company, but maybe they're getting better now. I think with the internet and knowledge being more publicly available, it's harder to get away with stuff. But at the same time, there's a lot of information. So what do you believe, really? So a certification like B Corp is just kind of the verification by someone other than the business themselves saying, yeah, this is what we do. And this is, you can trust that it's true because it's being verified by someone other than us, and for us, I would say like more than anything, because I wouldn't say that it has necessarily given us a whole lot of business, but it's given us so much more in terms of like inspiration that's like for us, like maybe for our guests and customers, like we can provide some kind of inspiration for us as a company to work with these other larger companies. Like I have my Clean Canteen bottle that I bought at this, I can't remember the name of the store. It's on Encinitas.
Ooh.
2007. This
Nice.
bottle for 14 years. It's this little store in Encinitas on whatever. I guess it's the 101.
On the main, like 101.
Right by the arch thing. Anyways, there's this little store that would have all these little hippie products. I just remember buying back when Clean Canteen would have been a couple years old. But yes, products that last for a long time if you take care of them. But yeah, like Clean Canteen, we work with them a lot. They have sponsored us. They've done marketing for us and with us, and so there's a lot of collaboration and just the opportunity to meet really cool business leaders. You sit down like at a table with a bunch of B Corp leaders, and you don't have to be like, what do you believe? You know, it's just a given. There's just a set of things that are given. It's like, how do we get to work? How do we get to work doing things? Like, we're not talking about, oh, you know, this should be done, could be done. No, we all know it has to be done, like to yesterday. And like, how do we actually start enacting stuff? And it's cool to see. So it's given us a lot in terms of just inspiration to get better, always, you know, always improve. So, and we do a lot of collaboration with other B Corp companies. And then I also like, you know, things like this. If ever I have an opportunity to talk about B Corp, you know, specifically to individuals and consumers, it's not just for businesses. Like, you as a consumer can dollar vote. You can choose better companies. B Corp is one way to do that, but there are others too, you know, like in this day and age, like we need to begin to like, not just begin, like we really need to take on I would say the mentality of making responsible decisions with where we put our money. You know, we cannot continue to support companies that are very actively doing harm and damage. Never mind, you know, trying to do better. You know, regeneration is a popular topic like around this time. It's because sustainability, you know, it's almost a passé term, I think. I've always been sort of cautious with the term anyways, because nothing is sustainable, nothing, you know. Everything we do has an impact. There are too many of us on this planet, and we don't live in such a way that is, you know, conducive to with the land, right? But at this stage, we have to use our brains, we have to use technology, we have to use, you know, like the fact that we have mass, you know, there's so many of us to actually regenerate and do better. We can't just not do harm anymore. We actually have to start fixing some of the things we've done and making things better, because I'm like this optimistic, like realist, I think, but you know, like I don't think that we can continue on like this for too much longer, you know, like we have got to start making changes. So it can't just be from the private sector, it can't just be from individuals, it has to be from the government, so it has to be from all sides at this point. So every little thing that we can do is important. And wow, I just like launched into a sermon there.
No, that's great. No, it's so important right now. It's a very, very, exactly. Preach. Exactly.
My hands.
Is there anything you want to say about, so it's like you're going towards these goals, and I'm sure it's, you know, as a creative person myself, and as somebody who's like constantly dreaming about big things, but then also just trying to enact them like you are. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you want to say about like when you're trying to when you're trying to create social change or trying to create a dream, how to stay motivated when things can feel overwhelming, like they're not happening, or also just like, you know, the super mundane tasks sometimes of just making a dream happen can be so like it can kind of take over. So kind of what, like, to you, what motivates you to go towards the dream that you have, or the world that you see, or like what keeps you going?
That's a great question. And this question is I'm going to think about it a lot now that you've asked it. And I'll give you the answer that I have right now. I think there's so much that could be said about it. But professionally, I'll say that what keeps me motivated is, and this is like, I like to do things very organically. So this answer could change all the time. But I like to look ahead always. That's to say, I don't like to spend too much time. I know the problems. Like I don't know them like a scientist would know like the environmental problems, or like a epidemiologist would know, you know, the details or anything. Like I get it in the very vague sense that the way we're living is not great. And I understand, I can, you know, I don't like, I think that sustainability is like kind of about simplification, actually. Like we don't need to make things more complicated. So it's not like, I think sometimes for us, we've been kind of duped into thinking like action is going out and buying things and that, you know, but it might actually be like just stop, you know. And like, that's why I think that if anything might have an impact in our lifetimes, might be a real turning point. I actually think this pandemic could be, because like we've been forced to stop. we were on this treadmill of life, and now we're kind of like stopping, reflecting about our lives, our decisions, individually and collectively, right? But I don't like to, like, I don't need to spend too much time looking and reading. Like I started reading, oh, there was this one book that came out a while back, and it was kind of like very doomsday prophecy of every single like environmental thing that could go wrong. I don't remember the name of the book right now. I started reading it and I was freaking out a little bit, and I was like, I kind of know all this, like I didn't know this level of detail, but it's way worse than I thought, you know. That wasn't good for me. And like for me, it's kind of like, know what's going on, pay attention, have your finger on the pulse of it, but know, like, clarify what you need to do by looking at people or companies, organizations, countries, whatever, who are more ahead in their journey than you are. So I like to follow, like, whether it's on Instagram or like blogs, reading articles, these other B Corp companies. That's why this movement has been so motivational for me personally. Like they're doing so much, you know. I like, there's little moments that stick out to you, but I do recall one of the at one of the retreats I went to for the B Corp movement, there was a woman from Fairwear. It's a company in British Columbia, and they're really, you know, they're very, very involved. But what she was saying was basically like, we're all like, as business owners, as people in this world, it doesn't really matter anymore. Like we're all really tired. Like I think we're tired. It's hard, like this, like there's something not quite right about how we live, you know, like we don't have enough time to enjoy it somehow in a lot of instances, you know, and it's hard work. But what she said was this, like it is hard work, you know, all this hard work, we're all tired, we're all busy, but like there has to be a point where, like, in a room of like, okay, who volunteers to do this then? Like we all know what we need to do, who volunteers? And you know, no one raises their hand, no one raises their hand. And like I think we're all familiar with that sort of thing. We just have to all be that person that's like, I'm tired, I'm weary AF, you know, but I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to do, and I'm going to get something from this, and I'm going to enjoy this work that I do as service, because I don't think there's actually anything more gratifying in life than serving, whether it's someone in need or the world at large, whether that's through art or business or it could be anything, you know. But I think that we need to look past our own individual needs at this point and try to act in the best interest of everyone. So whether that's educating yourself or keeping yourself motivated, I think like everyone's going to be at a different place in their own journey of this. You know, if you're just getting into this kind of, it can be overwhelming. You know, I remember being overwhelmed, you know, like when you first start reading about plastic pollution and then you go out into the world and like, it seems like someone is shoving something plastic into your hand at all times. You're like, I don't want this. Like, I don't want this. I don't need this. This is absolutely unnecessary. But then like, that's all you see for a while, you know? And then you get to a point where it kind of normalizes. You understand, okay, that's a problem, but I maybe have to set my sights on something bigger and chip away at this, but actually also work on this thing as maybe as my thing, you know? For me, it's very important to like stay positively motivated. I get, you know, very deer in the headlights when I get to, and like that's normal too. Like if that's you right now in this moment this year, like that's absolutely normal. Like we all have those moments where we're like, I don't know if there's a point to any of this, you know. And like there's those backslides, like I read somewhere at one point, there's a quote that's like the path to progress is not straight. It's not a straight line. It's a river that winds and sometimes finds the path of least resistance. And I think that's something that can be said about, you know, like the racial and social justice movements happening in the US right now in particular, but all over the world. Like it feels like, are we backsliding? You know, maybe it feels like that, and maybe we are a little bit, but I do think that it is still moving, and it's moving somewhere. And I do think that ultimately it will move forward, you know, but sometimes it feels like it's not, you know. I also just read Becoming by Michelle Obama, which was a lovely read. And there was a moment in the book that struck me most, which was we might not see the progress in our lifetimes. We might work away at something for a really long time and put our life's like effort and heart into something, and we might not see the progress of it, but we have to have some kind of trust that we are contributing to some positive end goal, you know. And I think that's what it is. It's this faith that knowing that you're doing what feels right to you, what feels good, and it's informed by science and, you know, good hearted I guess. And like, not everything we do will always be nailing it, but in general, like, I think that you pay attention to what's going on, you talk to people, you figure out your own passion and awaken to it, and then you you do what you can do, and there's no right or wrong. Like, everything can have a positive impact, every single thing, every work, every act, I think. So yeah, and then just know that, trust and hope that it's for the best, and always try to be better than yourself the day before, I guess.
Yeah.
That was a winding path.
So relate
That
with
speech.
that. No, I so relate with that. No, I keep feeling kind of lately like lucky almost, because like while I've done activist stuff for years, it's really been concentrated in the last few. And I feel like in some ways we keep getting these wins of things that happen that are like, oh, we act and then, Biden gets elected, or, things are happening, even if it seems like a really tough time. But I feel a lot lately like I am literally on the shoulders of like a lot of people who worked for really, really, really long periods of time and had no recognition, and did the really hard work of like being there over and over again when nobody's watching, or actively being suppressed, or so
I think it's like, to get a little esoteric, like, I think it's a good disconnection from the ego. Like, who are we to think that we, for all the hard work and actions that we do, we should see results today? Like, I think that's, we now live in such an instant gratification. Like, I want this, I want it shipped to me overnight, like, I want to see it tomorrow on my doorstep, like, that's not how the world works. We have to remove ourselves from this equation and just like collectively work together, and exactly like recognize the work that's been done before us to allow us to be here now, and just keep going and add, jump in this river of progress and let the current take you, but like jump in, but we might not, we're not like, who are we to, we're not so important, I think, that like we are gonna like nail it in our lives and get to see the results of that, like, I think that we have to just do it because it's right, and that be enough, that be knowing that we did the right thing, whether we saw the results or not, that we, at the end of our lives, whenever that may be, feel like, yes, that I did it because of that, not to see the end result, but I did it because it was just the right thing to do. I acted right because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. True that.
True that.
So kind of coming close to when we should finish-ish, but I wanted to see if anybody has any questions. My question would be, like, really quickly, are there ways that people can get involved that you see? Like, what are some like super quick ways people could get involved, or some more longer term ways? Either like different organizations that you like, or any thoughts there in terms of sustainability? And I do think the word, it's gonna evolve,
Yeah, I want to just, speaking about, I think, the place that I'm most competent and to speak about is in terms of consumption in general. So like, I am very lucky to live in a place where I don't have, I've referenced a few times now buying, but like, I don't get to buy things very often, to be honest. Like, I have a friend maybe coming down once in a while, and even less now, where I can buy something that I need online and have it shipped down. Otherwise, I get my clothes fixed, and it's because I live here. I'm not saying I would act like this if I didn't have to, but it's kind of like that, right? But I would just say, like, if everyone can just like really do an audit of what they buy, and what they spend their money on. So do you need it? Do you need this new thing? Is it an absolute necessity, right? If you don't need it, don't buy it. And I am not discluding an experience like Bodhi in that. Is this a necessary expenditure right now? Probably not. Is it, the right move? Not for a lot of people. And I get that, we happen to have a business model that is in a tenuous place right now. And that's because perhaps we're not as sustainable as we had hoped. And that's on us, and we're trying to figure out how to rectify that. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So like, do you need it? Do you need to buy it? If not, don't do it. If you do need to buy it, what about buying used? What about buying experiences rather than things, or gifting, homemade gifts? When you want to gift something, I am very much in favor of the idea of gifting. I think it's really important and from the heart. But like, yeah, sing someone a song, make them a dance video, do something thoughtful. I have often found that those are the most thoughtful ways to receive love, right? Write them a letter. I had two of our staff, for one Christmas present, one wrote 100 compliments, on like true compliments to this person, and it was like a thing that you could pull out at any point and read the compliments about yourself. Cool idea, right? But anyways, yeah. And then, so if you're going to buy, like, we live in a time and place where it is going to be necessary to buy things, shoes, clothes, whatever. Assess where you're buying things from. Look at B Corp, look at 1% for the Planet, look at Fair Trade, look at, all of that. Food is a whole other thing. Buy local, support local. I would say, like, versus supporting a B Corp company, maybe support the company like down your street, that money's going right to them. And that's really important. And again, like, I'm for the economy. I am pro-capitalist, as it were. That's the system that we have. And that's the system that we all, like, we can see that very clearly, that shutting it down isn't going to just, we have to evolve the system while it's still working. We have to push it to change while we're still in it. We have to build the house around us while we're inside of it, kind of thing. It's hard because we're in it, and like, how do you change the floor that you're standing on? It's difficult, but it can be done. But yeah, and then just really, like, take a look, at everything you do, everything you buy, everything you spend your money on, every way that you consume, right? Whether it's eating, whether it's energy, whether it's transportation. Like, there are so many ways, and I'm not going to sit here and like list them all. Like, you can go on any website and search this stuff and find cool ways, find things that are happening in your community. I would recommend becoming an individual 1% for the Planet member if you're interested in that. It connects you with nonprofits all over the world now who are doing great work. We are a 1% for the Planet member, and we are helping support specifically in the surf and environmental worlds. So that's really cool. Businesses, individuals, and organizations can all be a part of a 1% for the Planet. B Corp is a great, way to find cool companies. And it's everything. It can be like the person who does your taxes. It could be who makes your shoes. It could be food companies. Start looking for those labels in grocery stores. So yeah, just like audit how you consume, what you spend on, and see if you can make tweaks and changes to that. I would say would be my big advice for that.
Awesome. Thank you. We have just a little bit left. So what I'm going to do is take a few questions from people. If anybody has any questions, you can just unmute yourselves now and ask a question. We'll just take a few, and then we'll go really quickly to do the engage segment, just to see if anybody has things they want to share about how people can get engaged and the issues that they care about right now. Are there any questions at all? Ooh, is buying this thing going to eliminate a negative from my life? Yeah, that's a good call, Chef. Yes, that's a great way to think about it. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, if nobody has any questions, we'll wrap up with the interview. Thank you so much, Adrianne. I know there's I feel like we could talk for like.
I'm a bit of a talker too. I could probably like talk this crowd's ear off for like 3 to 4 hours. We won't do that, but feel free to connect with me in any way. I'm on all the things, so.